We're less than 24 hours away from kickoff at the 2018 American Football Championship, where the undefeated UCF Knights host the West Division champion Memphis Tigers. Counting down to kickoff, just over 21 hours to go. Happy to have you with us for the next 30 minutes alongside Brian Bailey. I'm Haley Outen. Brian, from Memphis and UCF to punch their ticket to this game along with the other teams in this conference that made them earn those divisional titles. How exciting of a year has it been across the American?
A big year for the American. UCF dominates the East Division, undefeated on the year. And what Memphis did, starting 1-3 in divisional play, hard to come back from that. They had to win every game down the stretch. They did just that, and they advance as the West Division champs. And the way these two teams play, we should be in for a great afternoon tomorrow.
We have a quick but fun show in store for you as we look back at some of the top games, moments, and performances. So we're going to show you our top 10 plays from across the conference in 2018. And we're going to start in Dallas at SMU. Play number 10, SMU really in need of a win here against Navy after starting the season 0-3. They're in overtime against Navy, and head coach Sonny Dykes, he says, we're not going to double overtime, we're going to go for the win.
And they got the win. Ben Hicks was benched earlier in the game. He didn't pout, didn't sulk. He came back in the game and got that touchdown pass and the two-point conversion, the Hunter Tedford, and there's the win right there for SMU. They win 31-30.
Coming in at number 9, Temple. If you've learned anything this season, it's that you do not sleep on their special teams. The quarterback, Anthony Russo, keeping the ball and running it in to the end zone for the score.
The Owl special teams truly special. Great little call right there. He could have optioned to the kicker. He kept it himself. He goes into the end zone for the touchdown, but an outstanding play for those Temple Owls.
Jeff Collins excited as they were taking on UCF, really going for it there on the faked field goal. Number 8, Tulane quarterback Jonathan Banks trucks his way into the end zone on 4th and 1 against SMU. Unbelievable play.
Former Jacksonville Jaguar quarterback David Garrard from East Carolina, his coach called him the beer truck, and that's what Jonathan Banks looked like right there, just running over people.
How do you think that defender was feeling? Number 7, Memphis, another team known for special teams. This time it's Pop Williams on the punt return, spins his way there in the middle of the field, makes it outside, and Brian, from here, there's a whole lot of green in front of him as he is running towards the end zone for the Memphis score.
I haven't played Madden in a long time, but you got a feeling that somebody was controlling that thing the way he ran that return back. Pop Williams, one of the best in the country for sure, and he had lots of green grass in front of him. It was all the way for the touchdown.
Brian, I hope you like special teams, because coming up at number 6, there's more of it. This time from USF, it's the kick returner, Terrence Horn. Now, this is in the first quarter against Georgia Tech. This is just the first of 2 that Terrence is going to return in this quarter. Midfield, he's going all the way for the score. What are the chances 2 kick returns in the first quarter?
Yeah, you rarely see 2 in a season, much less a game, but then in a quarter, the one thing, after you return 1 for a touchdown, you probably don't kick to that guy the rest of the game. But Terrence Horn with 2 touchdown returns on kickoffs, and that was a huge play early on in the season.
Now, these points were important in this Georgia Tech game. We're going to take a look at that one a little bit later in the show. But at number 5 in Houston, quarterback De'Aaron King. Think he's going to go down there, but no, he spins his way out. He's headed towards the end zone for the score. De'Aaron with 50 touchdowns this season. Unbelievable player.
Another great spin move, 4th and 7, and he goes 36 yards. Great individual effort, and he is by himself as he heads to that end zone.
Number 4, Cincinnati. The rookie quarterback, Desmond Ridder, just took home the Rookie of the Year honors actually this week. He's going to find his receiver, Thomas Geddes, in the corner of the end zone. This catch, he makes it over the back of this Alabama A&M defender. And
think about how difficult that is. You're trying to keep your eye on the football. You're trying to get a foot down. You're kind of just doing what you can to get possession of that football. And I think he was surprised when he came up with it.
Number 3 from UCF, it's quarterback Mackenzie Milton. Big game against Memphis. Flips into the end zone, but the most impressive thing, Brian, about this play is how he hangs onto the ball, and you'll see it right here. He actually extends the ball past the goal line for the touchdown.
And he breaks the plane of the goal with that football. If he hadn't done that, he'd have been about 6 inches short in that play. And, of course, our thoughts and prayers with Mackenzie Milton, that horrific injury. UCF won that game 31-30.
Number 2, Navy. It's quarterback Malcolm Perry with the ball here. You think he might go down right here? No, works his way out of it. Heading outside. Memphis going to make the tackle? Nope. going, and he just plows his way into the end zone. And when I think Navy football, that's some tough stuff right there.
I think option football when you think Navy football, and Malcolm Perry just doing a great job with that run. And at the end, he's trying to get his own players out of the way. He's banging through to the end zone, and he scores that touchdown.
Sheer will muscling his way into the end zone for the score. And number one, going to come to us from Temple. Tulsa quarterback unleashes, puts it up, and Rock Ya-Sin makes the one-handed left-hand interception and manages to hang on to that ball and bring it in to keep the ball.
And that time the offensive receiver was the guy that was surprised because he couldn't believe that he missed it, and the other guy caught it. Rock Ya-Sin and comes up big with that one, a left hand with the interception.
Unbelievable play. I don't know how he held on to that ball. Brian, looking back at those top 10, what was your favorite play of the season?
I go back to number 4, Thomas Geddes. I thought that was a great catch, and that's my vote for number 1.
Let's go down to your neck of the woods. Of course, individual performances are important, but it's the team performances that come up big when it comes to the non-conference schedule in the American. Let's head down to your neck of the woods in Greenville, where ECU came up with a clutch win, an impressive win, might I add, in the beginning of the season over North Carolina. Brian, you had the chance to cover this game. What did you learn about the Pirates at this point in the season after losing a really disappointing home opener?
Yeah, they lost to North Carolina A&T in their opening game, and this was the debut of Holden Ahlers. Ahlers over the top right there, the true freshman from right down the road at D.H. Conley. They were talking about, hey, is the game too big for him? Certainly wasn't. And that was his coming out party against the Tar Heels of North Carolina. And if you know anything about the Carolinas, you know that East Carolina folks love to beat the Tar Heels.
The Pirates have won 7 of the last 9 games against the ACC. What does that stat mean to the folks in Greenville?
Oh, it means everything, and it's one of those deals, you know, when East Carolina plays North Carolina State, they always get the underdog feeling. But 7 times, last 9 games, they've come up with the victory, and East Carolina and North Carolina, rivals for sure.
ECU wins that one 41-19, 510 yards of offense. But this was a huge game. Cincinnati out in Los Angeles at the Rose Bowl, starting the season off strong. Michael Warren II, 3 touchdowns in this game. We also saw the quarterback, Desmond Ridder, get into the game just before halftime, and he's pretty much been starting ever since. How big of a win was this out of the Pac-12 for Cincinnati?
When you go on the road, you go all the way to the left coast, and you play very well. Cincinnati surprising everybody, knocking off UCLA. Desmond Ridder, as you said, that was his coming out party per se, because he would go on to win Rookie of the Year honors in the conference. Michael Warren with those 3 touchdowns on the afternoon. Big day for Cincinnati to get their season off to a great start.
I don't care how good UCLA is. That's a tough game, first game of the season on the road in the Rose Bowl. Great way for Cincinnati to start the year off strong, and those are the kind of wins that get attention in this conference across the American.
And it got national attention that very day, that's for sure.
You'll see it right here. Cincinnati is going to close out this game defeating UCLA 26-17, and Michael Warren, again, 3 rushing touchdowns, 142 yards. Here's Temple. They had a tough start to the season, starting 0-2, losses to Villanova and Buffalo, and the ball was in the hands in this game of the quarterback, Anthony Russo. He gets his first collegiate start, and they come up with a big win on the road at Maryland. And Brian, this was really the game that was the turning point for this Temple team early in the season. It
really was. Everybody thought Temple was going to be really good. They start 0-2, and they lose games to Villanova and to Buffalo. And instead of packing it in, they went back to work, worked even harder. Anthony Russo comes in. He finishes 8-2 as the starter for this Temple Owl football team. He's a very good quarterback. Easy to hit him when they're that wide open, right, though?
One of the most interesting stats from this game was that the Temple defense came up clutch. In fact, there was no Maryland touchdowns from the offensive side. The Terps scored on defense and special teams, and that's really become a signature of this Temple team, is the defense. They went on to win that one 35-14. But here we are, Houston, another important game out of the Pac-12, and this was against Arizona. And Brian, to say that the Cougs played lights out in this game might be an understatement, because they went into halftime up 31-0.
They took them right to the woodshed early and often in this game, and they just took the war right to the Arizona Wildcats. Would go on to win the game 45-18, but De'Aaron King was big. 4 touchdowns through the air, 2 more on the ground. So he's a part of 6 touchdowns on the afternoon for those Houston Cougars, really showing his skills in the American Athletic Conference.
To not only beat a Pac-12 team, but to win this convincingly, what kind of statement does that send for this non-conference win?
Again, it was nationally. Everybody's looking at the Power 6 narrative that the American goes with, and when you win games like that, and not only win games like that, you blow a team out 45-18, just a huge statement from the Houston Cougars.
De'Ara King, 6 total touchdowns in that one, 4 through the air and 2 more on the ground. From USF, we saw this Terrence Horn kickoff return for a touchdown. In fact, we saw 2 of them in the 4th quarter. But USF, there was no shortage of points in this game. The Bulls able to fight back from a 10-point deficit in the 4th quarter. Their quarterback, Blake Barnett, really led this charge late. 21 4th quarter points for this USF team. How impressive was this win for the Bulls early in the season? And
it looked like it would get USF. It got them off to a great start. They started 7-0. They really slumped down the stretch. But USF, one of the best teams in the country, nationally ranked for a long time during this season. Terrence Horn with those 2 touchdowns. USF, though, with 21 4th quarter points. You know, early on, it was like Horn would run a touchdown on a kickoff return, and then Georgia Tech would come back and score. They'd run another one back for a kickoff return. But 21 4th quarter points was the difference as USF comes up with a big victory over Georgia Tech from the Atlantic Coast Conference.
USF defeating Georgia Tech 49-38. One of a few come from behind wins for this Bulls team early in the year. And UCF right here at home in Spectrum Stadium against Pitt. Milton had an outstanding game, Brian. Accounted for 6 total touchdowns. At this point in the season, many were saying that Pitt was going to be UCF's first real challenge, and they made a statement.
They really did. 45-14 was the final. And you look at this Pittsburgh team, nobody really knew how good they were going to be. At the time, everybody kind of thought, well, maybe Pittsburgh will finish middle of the pack in the ACC, maybe lower. Pittsburgh was on to win the Coastal. They'll play coming up on Championship Saturday for the Atlantic Coast Conference Championship against those mighty Clemson Tigers. So that's a huge win for the American Athletic Conference over an ACC team, UCF, knocking off the Pitt Panthers.
Yeah, that win looking better and better as the season rolls on. Notre Dame, who's ranked third in the college football playoff, defeating Pitt earlier in the season, just 19-14. But UCF able to put up 45 points. A great offensive showing for UCF. We are looking forward to kickoff, and we're happy to have you joining us here inside Spectrum Stadium, again, under 24 hours away as UCF prepares to host Memphis. Now, each year, it's always exciting to see what players emerge. We've looked at some of the top plays. We've looked at some of the top games, but who were the stars that were maybe on our radar at the beginning of the season, but that we weren't really sure who would come out? How fun is it throughout the season to see those names really surface?
Yeah, you kind of keep an eye on them throughout the season, look at the stats, see who's doing what. You hope everybody stays away from injury, which was not the case in the league, unfortunately, but these guys had great years.
Well, one player that certainly stood out this year came from Cincinnati. The Bearcats having a great season. Running back Michael Warren II. He missed the last game of the season against ECU, but Michael Warren rushed for over 1,000 yards, 17 touchdowns, and he averaged over 5 yards per carry. How dangerous of a player is Warren?
He was good. 224 carries, 1,163 yards on the year, 17 touchdowns. When they got near the goal line, the Bearcats knew who to go to, Michael Warren II, and he came through time after time after time. 17 touchdowns in the season. That's a statement.
When you have a running back like Michael Warren II, how can he come in and change the game?
He's just that type of running back. I mean, he comes in and he's a slasher, but he's powerful. He's got good moves, got great speed. You can see him right there diving into the end zone for that touchdown. But he's just an outstanding back and maybe be able to play on Sunday.
Got Michael Warren returning, Desmond Ridder. The future is looking pretty bright for Cincinnati.
Yeah, Luke Fickell, outstanding coach, and he's really turned that thing around for sure.
From ECU, defensive end Nate Harvey, the senior. Now, a lot of people maybe weren't talking about Harvey early in the year, but he emerged this week, named the Americans Defensive Player of the Year, leads the nation in tackles for loss with 24, second in the nation in sacks per game, averaging about 1.23 sacks per game. And one of the most impressive stats about Harvey is that he passed All-American Ed Oliver's sacks record, who had previously set with 23. You watched Harvey all season long. How great was this guy?
He was an amazing story. And you think about East Carolina had the nation's worst defense a year ago. And all of a sudden they come in, they play much better defensively. And Nate Harvey, he was a fifth-string running back on the depth chart. And they said, hey, Nate, you want to try to play some defense? He did just that, and he was incredible.
Jordan Cronkite, from USF, the running back. The Bulls put up points all season long, and Cronkite was a big reason why. Over 1,000 yards, 9 touchdowns. He averaged about 6 yards per carry. Why was Cronkite one of the keys to this Bulls offense this season?
I tell you, he was just explosive all season long. He rushed 23 times for 302 yards against UMass early in the season. That got his year started off to a great start. And really, he was the catalyst for that USF offense all year long. But just an outstanding running back. And the Americans blessed with several outstanding running backs. And Jordan Cronkite is certainly one of those.
And one of the key playmakers for USF, Terrence Thorne, who we just watched, returned those kickoffs for touchdowns. He went down early in the season. So Cronkite picking up a big portion of that workload, averaging about 100 yards per game. That's not too bad.
That's not too bad at all. He's an excellent running back.
USF will look forward to having Cronkite back in the 2019 season. But Temple quarterback Anthony Russo, first couple of games, he served as the backup to Frank Newtile. Newtile goes out with injury. Russo comes in against Maryland, gets the start, and he has taken the reins ever since. He passed for over 2,000 yards, 13 touchdowns, and since Russo got his first start at Maryland, the Owls have gone 8-2.
It's an amazing story, really, because they got off to that slow start and they didn't pack it in. They go 8-2 with Russo as the starter. He went 31 of 52 for 444 yards and 4 touchdowns. He also ran for a touchdown in their game against UCF in this season. So Anthony Russo, one of the outstanding quarterbacks in the American.
Temple turning out to have a pretty good season, and for Russo, only a sophomore. So if you're Jeff Collins, the future's looking pretty bright.
Yeah, you got to like that too. He's young, he's talented, he's a very good player, and we saw him earlier in one of the plays of the year in the American.
Temple finishing the year off strong, but Houston quarterback D'Eriq King, he was lights out, Brian, all season long. A second-team all-conference pick, and get this, 50 total touchdowns this season, and you're the second-team all-conference quarterback in the American.
And that's a credit to Mackenzie Milton for sure, but D'Eriq King, how do you get 50 total touchdowns for the Cougar quarterback and you only make the second team for your conference? This shows you how good Milton was, how good the quarterbacks are in the American Athletic Conference. But D'Eriq King, what a great athlete, just does it all for that Houston Cougar offense, an amazing player. Love to see him run the football, especially on that option.
King unfortunately suffered a season-ending injury with just a game left to go in the regular season, a torn meniscus. So the Cougars definitely missed him against Memphis in that final regular season game. But King, he passed for just under 3,000 yards this season. 36 touchdowns through the air, 14 on the ground. Extremely impressive. And D'Eriq King, that's a pretty good player to have on your roster coming back next
Most
season.
certainly.
Always fun to see who the breakout performers are. And we have one more, Darrell Henderson from Memphis. How could we forget about him? He set the Americans' single-season rushing record, passing Tulsa's James Flanders earlier this season. 1,700 yards, Brian. That's a lot of yards on the ground.
1,699 by my account, second nationally. So he's the second highest in the entire country. Averaged 175.8 all-purpose yards per game, and probably the best stat, 8.58 yards per carry. So every time he touched the football, basically, he's getting you 9 yards a crack. So it's an outstanding running back. A little bit of lightning for Thunder and Lightning for that Memphis Tiger duo.
How challenging is it for defenses to deal with a body type like Henderson? I mean, he just barrels through people.
He really does. Just an outstanding running back. You see him reads the blocking very well and just takes off, and he's tough to bring down too. Big kid.
Henderson will certainly play a major role in this championship that we're gearing up for tomorrow. And Patrick Taylor, he doesn't get quite as much of the attention, but this 1-2 punch can certainly do some damage and change the game. on the ground. We've talked top plays, we've talked top games, and we've talked breakout stars. But everybody loves a good surprise, and we had a few of them this season across the American. And while I think people expected Cincinnati to certainly take that next step forward this year, I'm not sure people could have predicted a 10-win season, Brian, for the Bearcats.
A credit for Luke Fickell. What a great season his Bearcats had. I talked to Coach Fickell before his first year, and I asked him about, coming to Greenville. What do you thought about the Pirates? And he said, hey, I haven't even been to Nippert Stadium yet. I haven't made it that far. So he was very early in his career, but he's got them going this year for sure. 10 wins on the season for those Cincinnati Bearcats. They're looking forward to their bowl game coming up, and they're going to be a force to be reckoned with in the future.
First 10-win season for Cincinnati since 2012. And last year, the Bearcats were 4-8. So Fickell improving his squad's win total by 6. The head coach named the Coach of the Year in the American by his peers earlier this week. So that's a pretty big honor.
It really is. And this team just they were right in the running as far as that goes. Every time they went out in the American, they had tough games. They played everybody tough, and this is a very well-coached football team, the Cincinnati Bearcats.
A lot of young talent. The quarterback, Desmond Ritter, running back, Michael Warren II. There you see him beating the drum, and that's usually a good sign in Cincinnati when that drum is making noise on the sideline.
The victory drum, for sure.
We mentioned Temple's win at Maryland, and that sort of being the turning point for the Owls this season after starting 0-2, losses to Villanova and Buffalo. But Brian, what changed for Temple that allowed them to have this strong finish throughout the end of the year?
They get to change at quarterback, and really they got to change in attitude, I think, when they went back out. You start 0-2, as we said, fans are the worst. They'll pack it in early on. Oh, it's going to be a terrible year. But really, when you look at what they were able to accomplish and bounce back from that, it kind of shows all teams that, hey, if you have 2 bad games to start, the season's not over. I think most teams in the American and in the country would take 8-4 right now.
One of the most unique things about Temple has been their defense. In fact, they lead the nation with 6 touchdowns this season. When your defense can put up the points too, how significant is that?
Your defense and special teams, and when they can put the ball into the end zone, that is a huge key. And you cannot go to sleep on the Temple Owls. They're going to score a touchdown or 2 without the football, because they're going to get a defensive turnover or make a play on special teams. They did it all year long, and that's what's been the credit for that 8-2 finish.
Temple 7-1 in conference play for the second time in 3 years. But how about Tulane? The Green Wave missed bowl eligibility last season by literally inches. This year, they were able to come back in the final 2 minutes against Navy to pick up their 6th win of the season last Saturday. How significant of an accomplishment is this for head coach Willie Fritz and his program?
When you have a team that doesn't have a great history in football, and Tulane's had some years, but, they've been down for a while, and they're able to bounce back, and you get kids with confidence. Confidence and the mental part of the game is so very key. And I think Tulane may have turned the corner with that, some of those defensive plays and just the way they played this season.
One of the greatest things is seeing teams get excited about bowl eligibility, and Willie Fritz and his team, they certainly celebrated in the locker room after the game. Willie Fritz, Brian, he went for like a crowd surfing ride throughout the locker room.
I tell you, and that shows you how hungry those guys were to get a bowl game.
Last but certainly not least, people expected UCF to have a good season. However, I don't think anyone could have predicted that with a new head coach and losing a handful of key players to the NFL, that the Knights would be riding a 24-game win streak into the championship. Plain and simple, how did they do it?
I tell you, they just did it by doing the same things they did last year with a whole new coaching staff. The first thing that had to happen is Josh Heupel had to come into Orlando and sell his plan to those players, and he did exactly that. Everybody knew UCF had some great talent. They were going to be good. They were going to compete for a championship. But to go 11-0 again, a 24-game winning streak for this program is just unbelievable. And they're 1 win away from another American championship and playing on New Year's Day again.
In the most recent college football playoff rankings, UCF coming in at number 8. We've heard this UCF fan base talk about it all season long. Brian, why are the Knights not getting the respect to be in this playoff conversation come the end of the season?
It goes way back with non-conference games, but they did what they had to do. They won those games. They beat a Pittsburgh team that's playing for the ACC championship. Until the college football playoff goes to 8, it's just how it's going to be, I think, for right now. But if it goes to 8, obviously UCF would be in there. But hopefully, if things fall the right way, but when you look at it, you know, how's it going to fall? A lot of things have to happen, and then they've got to get some support from somewhere. And it's just a very difficult nut to crack right now.
UCF fans rooting for some chaos this weekend.
And we've seen chaos in college football before. So.
We certainly have.
Yeah.
Well, one player that the UCF Knights will be missing this weekend is their quarterback, Mackenzie Milton, who suffered a season-ending leg injury against USF last Friday. The fans will be wearing leis, they'll be packing the house and playing for Mackenzie Milton in this championship game. But that means that Darryl Mack Jr. is going to have to step up and fill those shoes to the best of his ability. What challenges does that pose for the Memphis defense that there's not too much tape of Mack from this season?
He actually got to start in the East Carolina game, so I had a chance to see him there. It was kind of a surprise. Mackenzie Milton was taken out of the game there at the start, and he played well in that game. Now, he didn't throw it for 300 yards or anything like that, but he had a conservative approach, and UCF did exactly what they had to do to come to Greenville and get the victory. I think you'll see the playbook expanded more for the Memphis game. But it's interesting, you know, last year we talked about that game and how wild it was, a double overtime game. And you look at this game this year, I think we're going to see a lot more running the football than we did last year. They were throwing the ball all over the place. This year, I think teams are going to have to run the football. UCF's going to have to run the football more because of their inexperience at quarterback.
This team has certainly expressed full confidence in their quarterback, Darryl Mack Jr., as they head into the title game tomorrow. But on the Memphis side, we've talked about him a few times during this show this evening. The running back, Darrell Henderson, he has the ability to change the game. He set the American single-season rushing record this season for UCF. How much of the focus do you believe there will be on containing Henderson?
Well, they're going to have to contain him and just try to slow him down a little bit. But 1,699 yards for the season. I mean, he's going to get loose a couple of times. I'm looking forward to seeing him run in person. He's the Lightning, Patrick Taylor, the Thunder. I'm really looking forward to seeing this Memphis football team because they're playing so well. But they're playing a team that's won 24 games in a row. So it's going to be neat. It's kind of quiet here right now, but it's going to be hopping here tomorrow afternoon, isn't it?
It will not be quiet at 2:30 when we are back live tomorrow. But for these Memphis Tigers, they had to leave Orlando empty-handed last season. How motivated are these returners like Henderson, like Taylor, and a lot of the seniors on this squad going to be to not have that same outcome tomorrow?
You know, when you lose a championship game like that, I think most players will look around and see the celebration, and that kind of goes to the back of your mind as you start working in the off season and lifting those weights and running those sprints and doing all that stuff. So I got a feeling that, yeah, you're going to see a very motivated Memphis Tiger team. I mean, Coach Norvell this afternoon said, hey, we're excited to be back here. We know we've got a tough game coming up, but hey, we're back here again. And, you know, he said we've had playoff games back to back to back, so we're ready for another exciting game with UCF.
Memphis certainly playing their best ball of the year at the stretch of the season. For UCF, they're going to look to make it 25 straight and a back-to-back championship against Memphis. Brian, what are you most looking forward to about tomorrow's matchup?
I think I'm just looking forward to the matchup on the ground. I think both teams are going to have to run the football, and I like teams that run the football. I think the defenses are going to have to stop the run, and then when they're in the box trying to stop the run, you're going to see a pass play pop left or right. So I think it's going to be an outstanding game. They put on some great shows. Haven't they double overtime last year? Then you get the 31-30 game this year, so should be a lot of fun.
Counting down to kickoff, under 21 hours to go. It's been quite the transformation at Spectrum Stadium this week as we gear up for UCF and Memphis. We'll see you back here tomorrow.